So this week we're going to look at the further use of developing our texture mapping techniques and skills. So I thought what we'd do is we'd look at this idea of having a texture map that we might need to tile. Now I know you've already looked at that, but I think we need to look beyond what we've already done so far. So I thought what I'd do is set up a very simple scene, and I want you to set up the same scene and work through this with me as we go. And then we'll look at how we could map something onto a surface, which again, I know is something you've done. We'll have a look at a little bit more work with the UV toolkit, which I'll just minimize for now. And then we'll have a look at how we could set that material to tile across the surface, but then look at the errors that we might get. Because I think so far you've looked at things which really wouldn't throw up an error. So it's important to show you what to do when you do find an error. Okay, so let's start off by just going into the poly modeling tool set. We'll create a basic box, and we'll press R on our keyboard to scale that up. So we've got something that we can see. W on the keyboard just to move that up. Maybe just plonk it on the surface there, something like this. And we're going to suggest that this maybe is the corner of a building or something. Now my idea is that we're going to map something onto that. So I prepared a series of texture maps here, and this is the thing we're going to map on. Okay, so the idea is that Banks has been up to his mischief again. He's found an old shed and he's stenciled on this little girl looking like she's holding hands or doing a fist pump with someone. And we're going to put that on there, then look at tiling that across so she's effectively holding hands with herself. And then we'll see where there errors might lie. So that's the plan. Okay, so you will have these files available to you, so find those, make sure they're downloaded, unzipped and all that kind of stuff. And then what we'll do is we'll continue on and see if we can add our texture map to this element here. So let's go into the Hypershade window here. Okay, now what I'd like to do is start to introduce the use of something other than the standard sort of Lambert, Blinn, Fong type shaders. I'd like to start to look at some of the Arnold shaders because they are kind of the next step up in terms of quality and in terms of lighting and rendering and so on. So we'll have a look at the Arnold shaders. We'll go into shader, drop down, and surface, because we just want a basic surface type shader, and we just want the standard surface. So the AI standard surface, that just means Arnold standard surface. So we'll go into there, that creates us one. We can see it there, AI standard. I do like to get into the practice of naming things, so I'll keep the A for Arnold, and I'm just going to put wall. And that's my brother's initials, A wall, very good. Anyway, there we go. So A Arnold wall, and that's going to be our standard setup. We want the color not to be just a flat color. We're going to go in and we're going to choose our picture map. So we're going to go to File, and then we will go into here, image name. We'll go and find it. Now I've got it here. It's just silhouette JPEG. You can see there. Click open. We'll see that kind of pops up on there. Just about see it in there. We'll leave that selected, and then we'll apply it to this element here. So remember, there's a few ways. You can right click on here and assign to selection, or we can right click here and then go assign existing material, A wall material. Either way. Now what you will find is that doesn't automatically show us on there. You probably remember this from earlier classes you've had. So you need to make sure you click this button here so we can see it. Now you'll see that it has texture mapped it, but it's kind of done some weird UV wrapping. It's kind of taken the little girl character and wrapped her all the way around the box, right the way around, and there's the head. We don't want that. We want to just map her onto one face. So there's a number of ways you could do that, but what I like to do is I like to go into the UV toolkit and have a tinker in there. So I've got mine docked at the side. If you haven't got that, then just go into UV editor, and it'll pop that menu up anyway for you. But again, I like to dock it at the side, then I can just pop it in and out as I need it. So the one I'm going to use here is best plane. This is one we've not really looked at. So I'm going to go to best plane. I then click the plane I'm interested in projecting that onto, and then I press enter on my keyboard. Okay, you might find it'll pop up a little tooltip or something that'll tell you that. Okay, so it's projected it onto that plane. Everything else, it's kind of dragged out the pixels, so it's front and back. But I'm not bothered about the other sides. It's purely just so I can demonstrate this element here. Okay, so you can see it's taken my image, which was this one here, that one there, and it's fit it directly across. I'll just close that down, we don't need it, directly across that window there. So it's that one image stretched across that, rather than window, so that surface there. Now the next thing I want to look at is if we go into attribute editor for this, and then we go all the way across here until we find our material. So a wall material, and we can see in there we've got the weight, the color, and all that kind of stuff. If I go into the color in here, I should find to the left of the file tab, I've got the placed 2D texture tab. So we're going to go into there, and you'll see one of the things, again, you've probably looked at this before, is the means of tiling things. So repeat the UV. So I'm going to tell it to repeat twice. Okay, so the idea here is that we've now just duplicated that in essence and told it to tile across one extra tile in what we would deem to be like an X type axis. Okay, so across this area here. Now, in doing that, what you'll see is, yes, it's repeated it, but there's a very clear, what we call seam that runs down here. You can see it where the background wood element is. You can certainly see it where the hands, I kind of wanted those to meet up, so it looked like this little girl was holding hands with herself or with another version of herself. Now, it's very clear why they don't, because if you look at the left hand and the right hand, there's a disparity in, let's say, the y-axis position of those. So they're clearly not going to match up. But sometimes it's not until you do the tile that you realize there are errors. Okay. Now, even if we didn't have that little girl in there, we still would have issues with the wood matching up. Okay. Now that's where we need to introduce this idea of having seamless, tileable textures. Any old texture that's plonked on there is not going to tile easily, and there may be a situation where you do want things to tile, so you actually are tiling a bathroom or a kitchen floor or something where it's physical, actual, tiles. It might be that you're looking to put like a natural wood down as a piece of flooring, or the example is brickwork. You're trying to put together a wall and you don't actually want to have an entire, I don't know, photograph of a 50-meter long wall. You want to have maybe a smaller image that you can tile across, which will repeat without seams on. So these are things that we would need to develop ourselves. Sometimes you can do Google search tileable wood planks texture or something, a tileable wall texture, and you'll find them. But that's fine, but that's never ever going to be as good as you being able to do it yourself, being able to make one of these things yourself. Okay, so in the next video we'll look at a little bit more we'll look at further examples of texture maps, and ones which would be suitable for tiling, ones which would not be suitable, somewhere they're kind of almost there but they need a little bit of tweaking, and we'll work from there. So speak to you in the next video.